I want to talk about my experience with college. It hasn't been great, so buckle up. Context: I go to a very large school. It's called Rutgers University, New Brunswick campus, because there's a couple different ones. It is a huge change of pace from my normal life, where I like to stay secluded. It's a very large school, and I am in my last year of schooling. I have one class left to do. I can only take it in the spring semester. Right now it's the fall semester, so I gotta wait, and I can graduate by the end of this year, yada yada yada. But my experience with college hasn't been hasn't been excellent. I'll put it like that. My first year, freshman year, went pretty okay. The first semester, I was making a lot of friends in the dorm I was at. I had a great roommate, my buddy. We're still like best buds. I talked to him plenty. Um, we were friends since high school, and the first semester was all right. And then it was like after the first semester, hit by a pretty big wave of depression, and something they don't really tell you at school until you kind of get there is that depression is pretty widespread in college because the work is very stressful. I study in physics, and I feel like that's kind of important to bring up because the kind of people you'll meet in your major can vary wildly depending on what you do. For math and sciences, the kind of people you meet are going to be very busy with their schoolwork, while someone in like a literary degree might have a little more free time because they're not stressed out constantly with the kind of work you get in math and science classes. And for me, college has just been a very stressful, sort of nerve-inducing anxiety rush that is not fun. I've kind of suffered from depression a large chunk of my life. It wasn't until my second year of college I actually went to therapy and had things sorted out, and I'm much better now. But it definitely impacted my first 2 years of school. And then my third year was COVID, so I had to do online school for an entire year. It was actually a year and a half because it was the second half of my second year that COVID started to spike up and we had to go online. So my experience with college is going to vary pretty wildly from anyone else that starts going now, because I was in school during a pandemic. It kind of changes the way you look at things. My favorite time in school was actually during the pandemic, funny enough, or during the peak of it, and that's because online school was significantly easier than going in person. You have more resources available to you at one time because you're always at your computer doing work. I didn't have to deal with the bus system, which I am not a fan of the bus system of the school. I didn't have to be in huge crowds, waiting long times. I really hated dorming. Dorming was a big thing for me that I just despised while in school. And thankfully I no longer have to dorm, but that was definitely a big thing for me. A big reason why I didn't like going to school. The dorming experience for me was pretty awful. I've stayed in two different dorms because I've only been on campus. I've stayed on campus 2 years, the first and second year. After that, it was online, and then I started commuting. And the dorms at this university were awful. They didn't have air conditioning for starters, or at least our second dorm, that because I had the same roommate. Our second dorm didn't have AC, so you would cook to death basically during the peak summer, and then we couldn't control the heat or anything. So whenever it was peak winter, it was too hot. So often days we would have a window open, maybe even a fan going, and it's the dead middle of winter because the heater is that hot. And dorming was just an awful time for me. You have to share your bathrooms and everything with a dozen plus other people, and people are nasty, I'll tell you that. People are disgusting. A lot of the times I'd walk in, toilets aren't flushed, there's shit all over the sinks, just unidentifiable liquids, the showers are just awful. Not a good time. And that's not even mentioning I had to completely alter my schedule if I even wanted to do laundry in a efficient way or take a warm shower, because oftentimes the water was just cold, and if you try to do laundry at a normal time, say the weekends, then everyone else is doing it, so good luck. So dorming for me, big L. I hated dorming. The best part about dorming was my roommate. Love him to death. He's a great guy. You know, that was the best part of that. But just living on campus for me was not the wave. I'm not someone who likes to be social, and then being stuck somewhere that I don't want to be just kind of makes things worse. So living on campus is pretty awful. Having a meal plan, going to the dining halls and stuff, rough. You gotta walk like 10 minutes just to go get some food, and then even then the food's awful, so a lot of the time it just kind of sucked. And then taking the buses, I mentioned briefly, the bus system was awful. It's still awful. You know, you're packed like sardines on any bus you take during peak hours. It is so bad trying to use the Rutgers bus system. So, you know, my experience with school has just been overall very negative. You know, the classes I've taken, since I am a physics major, it's a lot of math, a lot of science, and those are all the worst classes. They are absolutely awful. They've demanded more than someone can realistically do while taking like 18 credits or 16 credits. You know, they kind of demand 200% from you, but in every single class, so you're overworking yourself, so that kind of causes a lot of depression and stress and anxiety. The classes are extremely difficult. All my professors, I can only recall one professor I had in a math class that I had like a very positive experience with, where they were like a really good professor. Other than that, none of them cared about the students very much. It was very just, do what I want you to do and don't talk to me. I've had many of my physics professors flat out tell us, do not email me, I won't respond. So, you know, it kind of paints an image of how this goes. And I think a large part of that does come from Rutgers being a research university. So these people want to do their research, but the only way to do that, they have to also teach. But they don't care about the teaching portion, so you can see the negative feedback loop there. And my favorite classes, though, have been like philosophy classes I've taken, or just sort of like random things. I think my favorite overall has been this class called Apocalypse Now, and I think that professor is gone now, which is sad. He was an awesome guy, and it's just a class talking about the apocalypse in religion with a big focus on like Christianity and Catholicism. It was a pretty cool class. I actually enjoyed it. But other than that, my experiences with college have not been good. They've been very depressing. I don't like college. I would even consider it like very scammy. You pay way too much money for very little in return, it feels like. The system's basically designed for you to fail, at least for the school I go to. Everything's kind of designed for you to fail. So you're definitely fighting your way up a large mountain, it feels like. And, yeah, that's kind of just how college has been for me. Not a good time. Not at all. Actually, it's caused most of my stress and anxiety, if not all of it, in the recent 4 years. It has made my life kind of miserable when I'm busy with classes and everything. So I wish I could go back and either go to a completely different school, potentially even change my major, or just go to a trade school. College just doesn't seem to be worth it, in my opinion. So, is what it is. I'm done ranting now, so thanks for watching, I guess. See ya.